This is my Dakota lithium box. This is what keeps my camera and my phone on all day. And this is my electrical tape. I use this for everything, including probably every home project. It's probably why my house is falling apart. Hot. It has been hot, hot, hot. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another one. My name is Sam Sobi. This is Hillbilly B-Rock in the back, repping the overalls, getting ready for Tourney Tuesday. We're out hanging out on the lake today. It's a gorgeous Monday. It was a beautiful weekend, but it's been hot. It's been really hot. I'm not complaining by any means. We spend a majority of our life on top of the ice, freaking cutting a tiny hole and fishing out of that. So to get some 90-degree days to hang out in a bass boat, I'm never mad at that. So today we've got a very relaxed video. We're kind of going to do a little fishing report update on kind of what we've seen over the past couple weekends being out on the water, and then kind of the things that we've seen change. Everything's happened really, really fast. I won't get into it all right now, but I kind of want to talk about kind of the spawn, how basically we didn't have much of a pre-spawn here up in the Midwest. Everything went right to spawn, and now a lot of stuff is kind of sitting in their summer patterns really, really post-spawn. So let's go talk to Jarvis up here. Jarvis, what are you doing?
Doing a little pre-fishing, just soaking a bait right now. Just graphing around, looking for hard spots out in a little deeper water. I think a lot of the fish are post-spawn. I've had plenty of time to...
Oh, you got a bite?
I don't know, I might ran into something there, but I don't know. I think a lot of these fish are moving deep, and we're trying to find them.
Before we go any farther about kind of what we're doing today and what we're really looking for, talk to me about where you've been, what you've been doing. And for all of you that don't know, this is B-Rock. He runs the YouTube channel, B-Rock Outdoors. Awesome channel, make sure you go subscribe.
Yeah, make
Talk
sure
to
you do
me
that.
about where you've been and what's been happening, and then kind of your experience there.
Haven't been around home too much. Was just down in Virginia filming a little episode for The Sickness. That should be dropping soon, so check that out.
You were on the James River, correct?
Seemed like down there fish were spawning, and also a little post spawn. But we've been grinding down there, and it's finally nice to get home, get up fishing in the lakes back home, and get ready for Tourney Tuesday.
The cool thing is B-Rock wears the same getup and attire. Hillbilly B-Rock reps this at the Bassmaster Opens as he's fishing as a co-angler. So
yeah,
he's hardcore. Don't let him tell you he's not. As far as what we're doing today, we're gonna be doing a lot of looking around today. Today we're on the body of water that Tourney Tuesday is at this week. Brok and I have a lot of history out here. We've probably fished more tournaments out here than anywhere.
probably.
A lot of little local derbies ever since we're about 16 years old on this body of water. That doesn't mean we know it. That doesn't mean we're good out here. That doesn't mean we have great history out here, but we have history. So I think we're just gonna do a lot of side scanning today. I don't know what the weed growth is like in here. It looks pretty clear, but there's coontail, there's milfoil out here, and I thought there used to be a lot of pondweed, but maybe not. We just rolled up to a spot previous and he made like 3 casts, he caught one. So I think these fish are kind of deep in a little post-spawn pattern. They spawned probably a couple weeks ago or even a week ago, and then it's gotten so warm that they've moved out to kind of their summer spots, which is kind of on these hardweed edges, rock piles, stuff like that. So I think how we're gonna fish them this week is pretty finesse. While there's definitely fish hanging out deep on weed lines and stuff like that, there is gonna be a lot of fish probably caught on the frog or flipping or in shallow weeds, hanging out in that dirty cheese right after they got done spawning, and that is why we brought our push-pull. This sucker is homemade. No, I know what you're thinking, we did not buy this. B-Rock made this himself, so we might get scrappy today and pull up in some of the juice, push our way around, and maybe we'll do some punching. Punching is fun, if you don't know what that is. Basically, a lot of scum and cheese form a mat. We use a big bullet weight, put a beaver on the back of that, flip it up in the air, punch through that mat, and then really grease some hogs out of there. We don't punch a lot around here. This isn't Florida or anything, this is Minnesota, but when we do get a chance to do it, and when the fish stack under it, it can be pretty greasy. So B-Money, give me a little report on kind of Midwest pan fishing. From what you've seen, what you've heard from buddies, where are the bluegills right now and where are the crappies right now?
Well, bluegills, I feel like they're either up spawning right now. Water temper now is currently 75, so they might even be done. I'm sure there's like a wave that's got to come through yet, but I think they're out deep, right on weed lines, kind of just like where the bass are. I mean, bass eat bluegills, so find the bait, find the bass. Crappies, I have no idea. Crappies just disappear this time of year. They spawn and then they're just gone.
Do you think they go in the basin, or just, I'm not sure, because I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't really target crappies much in the summertime. Like early spring before fishing opener, it's about the only time I target them on open water, but I have no idea where they go this time of year.
Especially when it gets hot as heck right after they spawn.
I mean, I'm sure they're in the weeds too, just with like the bluegills just mixed in, but I ain't no professional.
Alrighty, so little Midwest largemouth bass fishing report from me. This past weekend, Steph and I crushed bass, and we really kept our minds open. We started in the morning frogging, and that was bad. That was bad. And we got to thinking, and we're like, it's been so hot. I'm sure some of those frog fish are even pushing out of the really shallows and kind of getting on those main lake weed lines, main lake points, stuff like that. So we hopped on the Hummingbirds, we mega imaged around, and what Steph and I found Saturday morning when we went out bassing is a lot of like small gravel points that met up with even gross pondweed. Pondweed is not a good weed. It's not as good as milfoil or coontail. It seems like bass don't relate to it much, but there was still bait and fish on here, I think, just because of the hard bottom. So what I'm trying to translate is this time of year, hard bottom, I think, is everything for finesse fishing out deep for bass. The Sam Sobi 723 got an absolute workout this weekend. If you guys are in the market for kind of a heavier drop shotting, jig worming, flick shaking rod, especially for fishing weed lines, please check this out. I'll link this rod down below. So I think around 9-10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Steph and I found some of these spots. We graphed a few more of them out. We started fishing them, boom, Steph caught a 3-pounder. Boom, Steph caught another 3-pounder. She was throwing nothing but a little jig worm. I'll show you exactly what she was using. And she's using a little all-terrain tackle, mighty head jig with just a little dinko on the back. This little Yamamoto Senko. But basically she was throwing this right in the weeds, right on the weed edge, and kind of ripping it out. And a lot of times the chartreuse head plays big time in clearer water, but she was mixing in between this and kind of a black head. So jig worm, especially it seems like in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa area, is a really big deal, and Steph smoked them on this. So after she caught some 3-pounders, we had this little competition going, and it was gonna basically be like big fish pays for dinner. And around 10 o'clock, boom, on the jig worm, she hooks into a freaking giant. It was like a 4-8, something like that. Absolute giant. I didn't think I had any shot. Day continues on. I'm throwing a little bit more of a shaky head approach, so kind of the same concept of what she was doing, except I was just throwing a little VMC shaky head, if you can see this here, with not a Senko on the back, but with a trick worm. I'll show you. It's got a little screw lock here. And this gets hung up in the weeds less. And I know you're thinking that's gotta be way better, but not all the time. A lot of times those bass like when that jig worm, open hook style head, gets caught up in the weeds and you snap it out. A lot of times that can trigger a bite. Day went on, I started crushing fish on the shaky head. I started crushing fish on the drop shot. Last part of the day, we're fishing the last spot. Steph has the day one, and she usually always wins the weekend for big fish. All of a sudden, boom, freaking giant. I caught like a 5/18. It was a freaking absolute donkey. Yeah, we had some big fish in the well. We took some pictures. Awesome Saturday. But either way, the pattern really held up. We were fishing main lake weed lines next to a hard edge. So besides the shaky head and the jig worm and bottom baits like that, we threw a lot of drop shots. Drop shot is such a confidence bait for me. I don't care if you're fishing dirty water, clean water, logs, rocks, weed edges. A drop shot is amazing. And a drop shot is, if you're not sure, just a Nico style hook or any hook that you like with anywhere from 6 inches to 2 feet of line and a small little weight on the bottom. This is a little VMC tungsten weight, and this is a VMC Nico finesse hook. This is my favorite drop shotting hook. This is a size 2/0. This is a little bit bigger than I normally use, but I'm using this to kind of reference it. You can see it a little bit better. There's like 2 little prongs here, and it looks like it's fluorocarbon line or even a little denser object. And what that is, that's just your keeper. That's your bait keeper there. And especially because I like to fish drop shot on the weed edges, I'm kind of Texas rigging it, just like this. So a lot of times I'd fish a trick worm, just like that. And that keeper holds that worm on there like that. And then what I'll do with this hook is I'll just bury it right in that worm. And so if you can picture it like this, I've got my drop shot like this, and I can throw it out there, get it on the weed edge, kind of get my drop shot weight caught in the weeds, and then I can just shake it right there. And my bait's just gonna shake there. And then I can kind of pop it out of the weeds. That way my bait's kind of up off the bottom and up out of the weeds, but I'm still kind of doing that tearing out of the weeds approach like a jig worm does. Drop shot in the weeds is very, very deadly. Besides that, other techniques that really work on weed edges, there's a little wacky rig jig right here, right through the middle. It's kind of a flick shake approach. Throw it right in the weed edge, let it go down to the bottom, and kind of pop it out. But this has more of a wacky rig action because it's hooked in the middle. And the worm moves like this in the water, opposed to straight. It kind of has that bend like that. And what I like to do is I just cycle through these. And when I really start to figure out what they like, or there's a certain approach that they love, then I glue it in my hand. And last but not least, a Nico rig is very, very important too, especially on weed lines. So you can use it with a finesse worm, you can use it with a trick worm, you can use it with a Senko. It's a little VMC. Nico weight. You can rig that in just like that. You can go back to your Nico style hook. And you can either hook it just in the worm. Some people like it like that. Some people wacky rig it to the side. One thing that I've really been using, not necessarily just for Nicos, but for wacky rigs, especially weightless, are these VMC crossover rings. This is super deadly. I don't know if this is new this year, but I didn't know about it last year. Let me show you kind of how they work. They come in a variety of sizes and colors if you want to match your bait specifically, but if I'm fishing a Nico rig, especially on the weeds or through brush piles, I kind of slide that on there like that, and then I can position my hook in two tiny little holes right there, and that grips it really, really hard without tearing my plastic. I can kind of fish that on the weed edge. But if I'm fishing just a weightless worm, say the Nico rig is out, I'm fishing docks, skipping docks, just a weightless wacky rig, I don't like the hook positioned here in this action. I don't like that at all. For years I never used these, just fishing weightless worms, because I didn't like the hook positioned like that. I liked it through the worm just like this. I feel like it gave it a better action. Cool thing about these crossover rings is they have holes going this way and holes going this way. So now, without tearing my plastic, I can put it through the other holes. And now it's wacky rigged the way I like it. Bottom line, VMC crossover rings, very, very deadly approach. You use much less plastics. You can grip it much better, and especially if you're fishing the weeds and you're snapping it out of the weeds a lot, you don't tear your plastics and you can catch much more fish just on one worm. So those are just kind of the 5 or 6 approaches how I've been catching fish at least past couple days. That's how I'm anticipating it's gonna go down on Tourney Tuesday. Brok and we're gonna keep our options open. We're gonna try frogging, we're gonna try shallow flipping, we're gonna try a variety of other things. But I really think on this body of water that has a lot of milfoil, coontail, good defined weed edges, we're gonna look for those hard edges, and we're just gonna kind of cycle between those 5 and 6 approaches and see how they like it. So I'm excited.
It's hot. Oh my God. It's so hot.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
What do you do to beat the heat, B-Rock?
Take off my clothes.
Hopes, fears, and dreams going into Tourney Tuesday, your first Tourney Tuesday of the year, our second.
Yeah, I'd say hopes are we can find some fish today. I don't think we're gonna try to catch too many of them. I think we're gonna roll up 2 spots, and if we catch one, we're just gonna leave it. But hopefully we can find them today. Fears is that I fall in the lake, but you know that actually wouldn't be too bad on a day like today. And dreams is we find them all and we win it. Yeah. So we're pumped. This is a fun body of water, a hard body of water, but super fun.
Last week, Hella Bass did an amazing job subbing in for Brok and Bart, but we got the dream team back. Bart is just coming in from down south. I think he's fishing some Alabama bass team trail. A lot of heavy competition. I think he's gonna be posting some videos on his channel soon, so make sure you go check out buddy Bart. And yeah, I think for now, we're just gonna kind of lock in, put our heads down, do some scoping around, and I will see you all on Tourney Tuesday. Thank you so much. I hope everybody had an awesome weekend, and I hope you kind of enjoyed the technical breakdown of what we learned this past weekend and kind of going into a little bit more detail on what we're finding as the weather changes and the weather really heats up. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Make sure you protect your skin out there. Be safe. And I guess there's nothing left to be said, and stay tuned. And as always, let the adventure begin.
Move ahead, oh my pretty babe. Something ain't right. Got to find a way to move ahead. Oh my pretty baby.